Is your concrete wet? Do you even know what I mean by that? We're going to talk about RH, relative humidity, in your concrete and what that means for your floors. All right guys, so today I wanted to talk to you about one of the most common problems we've been running into, at least in our area, and that is RH, relative humidity that is in your concrete. We're not talking about a flooded basement anymore. We're talking about just water that naturally comes through the ground and comes up through, again, the different types of materials that are there that then of course can cause problems in your floors. So in concrete, specifically, of course, a lot of times anything up until early 2000s and even after that today in our area, we're still finding that a lot of guys are not putting down a moisture barrier underneath of the concrete. And all that is really at the end of the day is a piece of plastic, but nonetheless, there are a lot of guys that aren't doing that. And if you look at the manufacturer's specifications, all of them out there say if there is not a moisture barrier under the slab, that you need to protect your flooring from the moisture coming up through the concrete. Now, technically, there is some room for error here. There's amounts of moisture that come through that some flooring types can handle, and others, again, the amount of moisture coming through is too much. So how do you know if you have too much moisture? Well, we're going to do one of about 3 different tests. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is not a technical test. Unfortunately, none of the manufacturers even actually see it as a true know that you have a problem. They're just going to do it as kind of a first, okay, is there a possibility here or not? So we're going to take 2 foot by 2 foot, 24 inch by 24 inch chunk of plastic, solid plastic. We're going to actually have to make sure that there's no contaminants on the floor. In other words, if you take a bottle of water and you drip it on the floor, you'll be able to see if there's contaminants because the moisture should absorb pretty rapidly into the concrete and not just sit on top or beat up on the surface. If it does beat up on the surface, we will recommend that you grind the concrete first to open it up. And again, you can do that water droplet test one more time to make sure that that is absorbent. From there, you're going to tape down that 2 foot by 2 foot piece of plastic, and again, you're going to let that sit now for 48 hours and see, did the concrete get darker in color? Is there water droplets beating up on the surface of your plastic? Things like that. Again, this is not a foolproof test, but it gives us an idea if we have moisture issues that are there in this particular slab. From there though, if we do see any type of moisture issue, we do want to take it a step further. And you can do what's called a calcium chloride test, which is basically the same test we just did. You're going to put down plastic on the floor. It's usually more of a plastic shell or bucket. And then you're going to actually inside of that put a little petri dish of calcium, and you're going to weigh it before so you can see what it is when it's dry. And then after it sits in there for, again, 24 to 48 hours, you're going to weigh it again, and you're going to be able to determine how much moisture is naturally coming through the concrete with that test. Again, problem though with that test and why it's actually from an industry standard standpoint they're going away from it is we've seen there can be a lot of errors, a lot of variables that sometimes throw that test off. So the other thing that they're now really pushing towards is probing the concrete. And what we're going to do there is we're going to drill a hole in the concrete. We're going to drop a moisture probe down in that hole. We're going to let that set for 24 hours, and we're going to come back and test it with, again, a special tester, and we're going to see what the relative humidity is in the concrete. What's really cool too with that test is we don't need to grind the surface or anything else generally. We can just drill the hole, put the probe in, come back in 24 hours and see where the moisture is in your slab. So again, just wanted to cover that because guys, we see this problem a lot. Sometimes if you have existing flooring as example, you can walk in and see in some cases if you have a moisture problem by maybe it's got bumps or dimples on the floor, or even if you pull up a piece or two, is there any residual moisture underneath of that flooring? And so again, just make sure if you've got it, you can look at those, or of course always give us a call. Of course, like, share, and comment this video for anybody out there that may be seeing some of these issues. Maybe they're working on doing an epoxy or an LVT floor. These are big concerns with those floors. So again, please like, share, and comment on this video, and let us know if you have any questions or concerns about this.